Hello, lovelies. This is 5 Minute Manifesting, and I'm your host, Lovey Brown. Thank you so much for listening. I'm thrilled that you're here. Today, I want to talk to you about manifesting a specific person, specifically how you can act in the 3D around your specific person when you have to interact with a specific person who's maybe not treating you so great. This sometimes happens, like if you're manifesting an ex back, or if you're manifesting a specific person who acts hot and cold, or who maybe just is not communicating the way you want them to communicate. I do want to say here at the top of this, the front of this, if you're in an abusive situation, please remove yourself from that and get yourself to safety. That's not about manifesting. That's just about your safety. We don't accept abuse from anybody. I don't care if they're your specific person. Leave, get yourself safe, and then we can talk about manifesting. Okay, let's move on to how to act. So sometimes when your specific person has hurt you or you're feeling hurt by them, you don't want to be around them in the 3D. Now, I very often, when I manifest, like in the past, when I've manifested someone or I was trying to manifest an ex back, I tried to limit how much exposure I had to them in the 3D reality just because that was easier for me to concentrate in my internal world. Because remember, all of your manifesting happens in your internal world. All of your processes and everything, that's what happens there. Now, that doesn't mean that your actions in the 3D can mess up your manifestations necessarily, but you don't want to have that weighing on your internal world when you remember, remember that time I just went off on my specific person? You can still manifest them, but you don't want that weighing on yourself while you're trying to manifest them. So I think it's better to just try to limit your contact if you can. If you can't, that's okay. That is totally okay. But how should you act? Because remember, there's only yourself to change. You're not going to change them. They're going to change in response to you changing. That is your goal. You're doing your manifesting and focusing work in your internal world, and then you're choosing to be different. Now, how do you make these new choices? So you have to choose to be who you want to be. You're manifesting a specific person, probably a romantic relationship, but it doesn't have to be. It can be another type of relationship. And who do you want to be in that relationship? Do you want to be someone who's loving? Then you act loving. Do you want to be someone who's loved? Then you act like you're loved. Do you want to be someone who's wanted? Then act wanted. Do you want to be someone who's cherished? Then develop in your internal world a feeling that you are cherished. This is not dependent upon their behavior. This is what you're doing in your internal world to create that. And it could just go on and on. Whatever sort of feeling you're trying to create in that relationship with your specific person, you're going to create that feeling in your internal world however you can. And then when you're in their presence, you're going to act that way. You're going to act like a person who is loved. Now, a person who is loved, who's in the presence of someone who's treating them poorly, it's gonna feel different, right? They're not going to accept poor behavior from that person. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to act bothered by it. They're not going to put a lot of messages in that person's face, with a lot of words. They're not going to be telling them about themselves a whole lot. That's not what a person who's loved is going to do. They're going to be unbothered by that. They're going to that's not going to faze them. A person who deeply knows in their internal world that they are loved and cherished and wanted and secure is not going to be acting, any sort of way towards their specific person. Now, I know that this is far easier said than it is done. So it takes practice. I know I've mentioned practice a lot on the podcast, but it truly takes practice. The more you can sort of notice in the moment, especially if you're in the presence of your specific person and you're feeling some kind of way, that you can catch that and notice it, but not let it affect how you feel about yourself. Like I said, I know this is easier said than done. The better it's going to be. The faster your manifestation is going to come together. Because what's going to happen next, if you start acting loved, wanted, cherished, secure, your specific person is going to reflect that back to you sooner rather than later. And so think about this question. How would you act if your specific person, around your specific person, if you felt confident? How would you act? Who would you be? What would you say? What would you wear? And then choose to do those things on purpose. That's another thing. Like, you can choose to be who you want to be on purpose, regardless of how they're acting. And then when you're choosing that, they're going to reflect back to you a different story. I hope that helps. Thank you so much for listening, and may you manifest exactly what you want.